Welcome to Naresh Technologies. I'm Bangar Raju and this is the part 3 video of Delegates. So in this video, we'll just learn about anonymous methods. Anonymous methods. What are these anonymous methods? In our previous video, we have just been looked at how to bind a method with a delegate. So how do you bind with a method with a delegate? We create the instance of a delegate, and while creating the instance of a delegate, we are going to pass the method as a parameter to that delegate. See, this is the instance of a delegate, and while creating the instance of the delegate, we are passing the method name as a parameter to it. So this is what we have learned in the previous videos. So here we define two delegates: add delegate for calling add nums and say delegate for calling the say hello. And here we are creating the instance of the delegate, and then we are binding the method name as a parameter to it. Okay, so this is what we are doing. So in anonymous method, what they say is anonymous method is also related with your delegate only. What they say is, without binding a named method to the delegate, you can bind a code block to the delegate. Means an unnamed code block to the delegate. Okay, let me show practically. We'll add a class here. Naming my class as anonymous methods. Here I have a method public static string, some greetings, and then I'm just going to pass a name here, string name, and we'll write here return hello plus the name, a very good morning. So this is what I'm just trying to write here, a simple method like this. And I want to call this method by using a delegate. So as we discussed in the part 1 and part 2 videos, so how to call a method by using a delegate? First step is to define a delegate. You're required to define a delegate, you're required to instantiate the delegate, and then you're required to invoke the delegate. So right now, let's try the appropriate process. So first I should define a delegate. So public delegate string and greetings delegate, and I'm passing a string as a parameter. So this is the first step, defining a delegate, and the second step is to instantiate the delegate. Now let's come to the main method, static void main, and we need to create the instance of a delegate. What is the name? Greetings delegate. Obj is equals to new greetings delegate, and then we are going to pass a method here, and the method what you are going to pass, the target method what you are going to pass, should take a string as a parameter and should return a string value. Should take a string and return a string actually. Should take a string and return a string actually. So to do this, we are just going to write a method name here, that is greetings. So the method, we are binding this here, and then we are going to invoke the delegate. So how to invoke a delegate? We can directly call it, or we can just call the invoke method that is present in the delegate, passing some name here. Okay, some name like Scott, and do remember the method is a value returning method. So string str is equals to, and then we say console dot write line str. Yeah, let me execute. It's going to invoke the method with the help of a delegate. Yeah, the method is invoked with the help of the delegate. So this is the process what we learned in our previous videos, how to invoke a method with the help of a delegate. And now here, what we're doing here, we are writing a method and afterwards binding the method with the delegate. So without writing a separate method and binding with the delegate, we can simplify this process. How you know? Just simply, at the time of creating the instance, you can directly just use a word here called delegate, and for this we can pass string name and write the complete logic here. What logic? This return. So this logic, let me copy and paste it over there. And now I can delete this method. I can delete this method and execute, we get the same output. We got the same output. So this is what a anonymous method is. So this is what we call as a anonymous method. This method is an anonymous method, a method without a name. What it contains is only a body. What it contains is only a body, and the method is defined by using the delegate keyword. We use a delegate keyword and we are going to define the method. And afterwards we are going to specify the parameter. And here no need to use a modifier like public static. Earlier, originally when we written the method, how did we write? Public static string and method name greetings. And now you notice it, you don't require to use the public static, the return type string and the name of the method. All these things are not required. Nothing is required. Straight away we can just say delegate and we can just straight off write the body for the method here and execute the method. So you may be wondering, what is the advantage? The advantage is lesser typing work. Lesser typing work. And these types of things are not suggested. The anonymous methods are not suggested every time. Generally, anonymous methods are suggested when the code volumes are less, means some smaller volumes of code, like some 10 lines of code, 12 lines of code, up to that extent. Suppose your method is going to have huge volumes of coding, some 100, 200 lines of coding. In such scenarios, they don't suggest us to go for using the concept of the anonymous methods. A small volume of code, some few lines of code inside the method, without writing a separate method, we can just use a unnamed method and bind it directly with the delegate here. So the advantage is lesser typing work. Why? We don't require to use the modifiers, we don't require to specify the return type, you don't require to specify the parameter, we don't require to specify the method name, all these things. What you require is only a delegate keyword and with the parameter what we want. Okay. Now you may be having a doubt, what is that? How does it understand the return type? Yeah, no need to specify the return type here. The reason is greetings delegate here, what I used here, already knows the return type. What is the return type? String. So that is the reason why when I say string and trying to return a string value, I did not get any error. The reason, it is already aware the return type is going to be a string. Okay, so that's the advantage what you have. So your code becomes simplified, and the main point is it is not suggested to use anonymous method each and every time. Use these anonymous methods only when the code volumes are lesser. When you are going to have huge volumes of coding, in such scenarios, never go for using the concept of anonymous method. And second thing is, you don't require to look somewhere for the logic. Means, in the previous example, if you just watch it, add delegate is calling a method addNums. I want to check the logic of the addNums. What is implemented in addNums? So I need to go scroll up and just to check out the logic of the addNums method. Okay, so that I can understand you are adding two numbers and come back now. But here we don't require to look elsewhere for the logic, because the logic is implemented directly at the place where the binding has been performed. Okay, so in which scenarios we can just use this anonymous methods? Let's understand. I'm trying to open a new project of Windows applications. We'll open a Windows Forms application. A new project. Visual C#, I'm going with a Windows Forms project, and let me name this as a simple name like a Windows project. Add a button on this particular form. So how do you add a button? Open the toolbox, and in the toolbox double click on the button comes and sits on the form. The button comes and sits on the form, and you run this. You can see a button on the screen. Now when I click on this button, it add me another button in the center of the screen. Understand? When I click on this button, it has to add me another button on the center of my screen. It should add in the center of the screen. So how can we add a button when we click on this? Now let me double click on this. When I double click, it generates a event handler for writing the code. What is the name? button1 underscore click. And now in this click, so what should I do? I need to add a button on the middle of it. So because the button has to be added dynamically here, I cannot drag and drop. The button should be dynamically created and added. How to do? You need to create the instance of the button class, and remember, every control is a class. Button is one class. So because it is a class, we can create the instance of the class. Button or simple B is equals to new button. Next, the button, I want a caption now. I want something to be shown on the button, something like click me. So B dot text is equals to click me. And next, B dot size. I want a size of the button is equals to new size of. You can just pass the width and height of the appropriate button. The width and height you want it. I want the width of the button as 100 pixels and the height of the button as some 50 pixels. Next, B dot location is equals to the location of the form where you wanted to add this button, the X coordinate and the Y coordinate. How to pass? New point of, and this point of will just take the parameters. What are the parameters? The X and Y positions of the form where this has to be added. I am passing the X coordinate as 150 and Y coordinate as 150, and then the button should be added to the form. How to add? This dot. This refers to the current class, and do remember the current class is always a form. Why? Form 1 inherits from form, means form 1 is a form now. So this dot controls dot add. There is a mechanism, this dot controls dot add B. And now run this. On the click of the button, a new button appears here. It's not in the center because our XY coordinates are not perfectly done. So it's not in the center. So I am giving the X coordinate as some 100 and Y coordinate as some 100. Yeah, we got it. We got it right now in the center of the form now. And this is the 0, 0 coordinate. And from here 100, and from here 100, the X coordinate and Y coordinate 100, 100, and here added the button. And now when I click on this button, it has to show me a message. What message? Something like hello world or some message, some simple message. But see, when we place the button at the time of designing, when you double click, we'll find a method for writing the code. And behind the screen, there will be a delegate. There will be a delegate called as event handler, which is hooked up with the control now. So how is it done? You'll find a method called initialize component, right click on it. And once after right clicking, say go to definition. And here you will be finding up this. What's it? Button 1 is the button what we placed at the time of designing. For that, click event is equals to new a delegate. What is the delegate name? Event handler, and this is the name of the method. What is the method name? button1 underscore click. These are linked with each other. How they are linked? Button1 is our control. Under that there is an event called as a click, and this click is going to take a delegate. What is the delegate? Event handler delegate, and for that we are passing a method name. So actually, if you just understand this particular code, you are creating an instance of a delegate, passing a method name, and then the delegate is bound to the button 1. Means this code, put into implementation correctly, it should be defined like this. This is the namespace name and all, just remove it. So how to write? Event handler is a delegate, event handler obj is equals to new event handler, and see, we are creating an instance and we are going to pass a method name now. What is the method name? button1 underscore click is the name of the appropriate method. Where is the method? You can see the method inside your class now. You can just check it out. This is the method. And this method, okay, instance is created, and afterwards the delegate is bound with the event. How? button1 dot click plus equals to obj. So first the method is associated with the delegate, and now the delegate is given to the event. So whenever the event occurs, which event? Click event. automatically it will call the delegate, and the delegate will now execute the method. So without writing the code like this, we can write this code in a simple single statement like this. A simple single statement like this. Fine. So already the code is implemented for button 1 there. Now I want to implement the code for my button. When I click on this button, a message should come. So what should I write? Exactly the code very similar to what we saw there. How? B dot click. Why now? Our control name is B. There it is button 1. Here our control name is B. B dot click plus equals to new delegate name, event handler, and then we require to write a method and bind the method for it. Okay. So let's see how to write the method. See, remember, every method should be defined by taking 2 parameters. Okay. I'm writing a new method. Some name. What is our name? B. B underscore click. Any name. We can give any name. No issue. And here I'm writing now what? Message box dot show hello world. And what is the name of the method? B underscore click. Come here and now specify the method name now. So this is the process. The same thing what I showed there. There it is button 1. Here it is B because our control name is B. So run your code and click on the new dynamically created button. It executes the logic. Somewhere got an error. Oh, a brace is missing. 1. Brace closing the class is missing there. So when I click on this button, a new button created, and when I click on this button, the message is displayed. When I click on this button, the message is displayed. So we have just written everything dynamically here. And here, see that, what is this? We are creating a delegate, and for the delegate you are passing a method. You are passing a method. Okay, this is the delegate instance for which you are passing a method. So here, remember, without again creating this particular delegate, passing the method name and all the things, you can replace it with an anonymous method. How? Is equals to delegate of okay, the parameters. What are the parameters? Object sender event args A. Pass this to, and then open the curly brace and write this logic straight away at this place, and now remove this method. Run again, click, button created, click, logic executed. So see, we did not define another method now. Without defining another method, we straight away use the concept of the anonymous method. So what did we do? We straight away use the delegate keyword and return the code here. Return of the code here. But earlier, how did you write? Earlier, how did we write? B dot click plus equals to new event handler. For this, we are passing our method name. What is the method name? B underscore click. And afterwards, we have written a separate method called B underscore click, and under that we have written this logic. So without that, you remove every of this particular thing. Directly start with a delegate and write off your logic. And why are you passing these 2 parameters? Because every event procedure method, event handler method should take the 2 parameters. What are the 2 parameters? Object sender, event args. So that's why we are just going to pass the 2 things and writing the logic. But see, are we using these 2 parameter values in our code anywhere? No. We are not using this particular 2 things here. Because we are not using these 2 things here, even if you don't pass this, the code gets executed. See, remove it and just run the code and click now, button created, click now, logic executed. But values has to be passed. Yes, values has to be passed. But see, remember, we are not using those 2 parameter values in the code, because the 2 parameter values are not used in the code. Even if I did not pass, I did not get any error. But some reason, if you are using those 2 parameters in the code, compulsory you need to pass the 2 parameters for this, because every delegate, what is the delegate name? Event handler. The delegate name is event handler. The delegate takes the 2 parameters. If you want, just have a look. Event handler right click, go to definition, and when you say go to definition, it will bring you to the definition where it was defined now. Event handler, it's a delegate, void, and takes two parameters. Because of that, we should pass here. But even though we did not pass it executed, the reason is we are not using them in our code. But remember, if you are using that in your code, it is mandatory to pass. Suppose the sender, E are used in the code, it is mandatory to pass. This is about your anonymous methods. Thank you for watching the video. For more videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Naresh IT.